to go now.
I can start? Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay. So, we spoke last week about 4 mitzvahs, which the Ram calls mechusrei kapara. And it's the last stage of tahara, that even though the person was tahor, however, there's a still residual tumor for bias mikdash kadoshav, and the 4 korbanos, which there's zav, zova, yoledis, and mitzvah. So recall last week, the Ram suggested that maybe zav and zova should be one mitzvah since they bring the same korban. So what the Ram basically answers is that, at least from the Arabic, that the matzav mesuyam, that's where the Hebrew translation probably should be, which is mechayev the min korban of zav v'zov is different, and he says that the basic difference is zav is loiven and zava is oidem. Interesting, and this is not for the Rambam in Pirush Mishnayos, the second parak in Krisus, seems to say that the basic difference is not in terms of oidem and loiven, but in terms of what it's riyas kaviyomim. Zav is with 3 riyas, even though it's in the same day, and zava is 3 separate days. And then he adds something which is also not for us now, probably when we get to Kuf Yud Zayin again, the Ram basically says that the Torah splits up Zav v'Zava. And that's why it should be, and that's why it's 2 in the Mishnah. Whether that should follow over to Minyan Mitzvahs, the Ram is not clear. Because in Pirush Mishnayos, the thrust of what he's trying to do is interpret the Mishnah. Okay, here, at the end of Ayin Zayin, the Rambam is dealing with now a different question. And maybe all 4 of these mitzvahs should actually be one mitzvah instead of 4 mitzvahs. And he, in order to ask this question, you get the impression he's laying down new principles. And we'll see what he's saying. Let's just read it, and then we'll try to interpret it. V'im yoimar oimer, if someone will come and say, Lomo leisimne korban mechusrei kapora kulam mitzvah achas. Why don't we count all the mechusrei kapora as one mitzvah? Even though we asked the question before, why do you count zav and zava? But the modus operandi that he's going to make it into one mitzvah is very different. So here is the word inyan, which the Ram uses many times. And this, for the Ram, the word inyan, at least the Hebrew translation of the Arabic, is the portal to understand how the Rambam looks at different mitzvahs. If, for example, he has a shirchi that if a lav is repeated twice in the Torah, and the Torah changes the lashon, but we have no indication from the Chachmei HaMesorah, from the Matiki HaShmua, that it basically is 2 separate inyanim. We look at it as the same azhara, the same lav, and the Torah repeated it in order to show how chomer it is. However, if it's a different inyan, then we count it as 2 mitzvahs. The Ram used the inyan, the idea of inyan, not only to separate, but also to bring together a priori many different mitzvahs to unify and make into one mitzvah. And the Ram says all these 4 mitzvah mechuse kapora have an inyan which you can unify them as being one mitzvah. And inyan echod, yikabtom, yicholom, there's a common denominator. V'hu chisa kapora. V'yiyeh ze min mimine taira min hatuma. This is a way that one goes from a status of tumah to ta'ara, and they all show up in one mitzvah.
Yeah.
Now, oddly, is that
Something about
the Rambam doesn't seem to be denying what he spoke about before, and he defined the 4 separate korbanos as a korban which you bring on a matzav mitzuyim, and the matzav, the situation of zav, and the situation of zavo, and the situation of yoledes, and the situation of mitzera are different. But even though you have these differences, but since in a certain way you can unify them, that's enough to make them one mitzvah. That's the thesis over here. He doesn't explain where he gets it from. Now, I understand that inyonim can unify or also could make disparate mitzvahs, but here, even though each of the cases has its own unique issues, but since there is an inyan which unifies them, that according to the Ram is enough to make it one mitzvah, which we'll look at soon a little bit more, but that's what we have so far. That's what he's saying. There is something called tahara min hatuma, and there are various mitzvahs which you gain tahara from hatuma, and the Ram will list them later as meinida, that's hazos mechatos, and you have mikvah, and you also have the arba minim sheba mitzera, the various the 8 azov and shnis halas and the tzipah chaya, whatever, those are the mitzvah of taira. And if you have another mitzvah of taira, the mitzvah of converting a mechusa kapora into a complete Torah. V'hoyoroi shetoima ha-mitzvah haplonis, call it mitzvah X. He shetzivonu, very strange lashon, shaloi tishalem taras ksas hatmeim, the tumah will not become complete, the tara will not complete, unless you have v'hein zav zov of yoledes u'mitzer ad shakiv korban. With zakovus hakorban is the completion of the tahara, and the completion of the tahara is a mitzvah. Let's just read it through, and then I'm going to go through the shaynis. Kmo shetimne tahara b'mikvah mitzvah achas nischayev bo eze tomei sheyehiyeh. The same way the Ram counts the very odd thing, tahara and mikvah, as a mitzvah. The ein chachoshesh lemin hatuma, even though the tahara and mikvah of a person who touches a sheret, a person who touches nevela, a person who touches shechva zera, a person who touches a zav, a yoledes, whatever, it's irrelevant. It's all the same tahara, and it's one mitzvah. Kein hoyiroi lacho shetimne korban mechusre kapor mitzvah achas v'lo seichush lemin tumasa, because before he was interested in the min tumasa, that the tumah of yoledes and the tumah of zav and zobo and mitzvah is different. And he says, however, when we talk about tahara, we're not interested in min tumasa. So in terms of counting min tumasai, the argument which he mentioned before is irrelevant. Now, before we get to the answer, now let's just see exactly what he's saying over here, okay? Just here, just the lashon is a little bit odd. The shaloi tishalim, that you shouldn't complete, you can't complete the talis atmeim without a korban, is written in an odd way because you wouldn't expect a mitzvah say to be written in the negative fashion. This is an oddity over here because it's something you're supposed to do, and it's tzivui. The Ram in Shorish Ches clearly says that it's tzivui is to do X, that not doing that the tile would not come with something else is a very odd way of phrasing it. Okay. Also, another oddity over here, which I'm just going to touch on. The Ram says over here, he says, "Kamo shetimne tara b'mikvah mitzvah achas nischayev bo." So it means that there's an obligation to a mitzvah to go to the mikvah. That means you are obligated, nischayev. Now, this is also very odd for the following reason. Tara in mikvah, the Rambam clearly says in mitzvah kuftes is only rishus, not an obligation. And in Nasei kuftes, he says like this: the ena kavono ba'amalnu shatfila mitzvah say sheyi chayiv kol tomei sheyitayir al koponim kamo shu chayiv kol mi sheyis kase b'ksus yasetzitzis. Anyone who has a beged should make tzitzis. Oh, kol mi sheyeh lo bayis yasemake v'ula manirtz b'zeh. What do we want here? Din tefillah. It's a din, which she calls Sharana and so on. Ve'yois ha'teira imeres lanu ki mi sheyirtze litoya mitamotzin lo yishalem loi. Again, the same time. Ze ela b'tefillah. It cannot happen without tefillah. Tefillah b'mayim or b'ozi toya. So the din tefillah. And it's not what you call a clear commandment, a tzivui muchlot. It's basically a din in a hirat atera, like the asay of aforos nedorim, asay tzadihei, which the Ram develops in asay tzadihei. You'll see there the whole discussion that there's an idea of din that could be a mitzvah, which we don't understand what it is, because a priori it's diametrically opposed to Shorish Shmini, which says that mitzvahs are from a linguistic point of view, mitzvahs are commandments. And a horah and a din, which is not a commandment by definition, should not be a mitzvah. Here, the Rambam is almost in a quagmire. Because if you're going to extrapolate and assume that mikvah is not a chiyuv, but the way he presents it in kuftes is a rishus, so then the comparison to these four korbanos, the korban of zav, zovo, yoledes, and mitzvah, is very odd because there's an obligation to bring these korbanos. So then the question is, why in the world would you compare it to mikveh? If you're ready, it's very odd. I don't know if it's a setup, what he wants, but he looks at mikveh as a chiyuv, so he says the chiyuv Torah over here and the chiyuv Torah over there, they should be equated. There should be one mitzvah, even though there's a chiyuv. But the oddity is he's comparing it to something which he himself says clearly in Kuf Tesav is a shus. It's a very odd thing. What I really want to drive at now is let's go back now and try to understand what's going on over here. What the Rambam has now set up, he's really suggesting that there are two ways that we can view something called the Korbanos Mechusei Kapara. You can look at them as separate entities, Korbanos which you're obligated to bring because of a peculiar situation, a matzav mesuyim, and you can also look at them as tahara. And this is very odd. What is it? And how does the Rambam know that there are these two manners to look at Mechusei Kapara to begin to ask questions here? So here, frankly, I remember one summer when the Rav Zecher Tzadik Levacha was studying Krisis, Daf Ches, I think it was the summer of 1973, I remember being taken aback and the Rav pointing out from the Sugya in Krisis Chesam and Aleph, Tonu Rabbanon, Hey Leides Vadai, Hey Zivois Sofik, or Hey Leides Vadai, the Hey Leides Sofik, Mi Bia Beis Kinon, Achas ala Vadai, the Achas ala Sofik, Shavadai Necheres, Vashar Ole Hochoiva. So it talks about a person, a lady who had many ladies, many births, and she is obligated to bring many korbanos yoledes, or it could be other cases also. And the din is that she might have to bring 5, but with the first one, she can already eat kachim and go into the mikdash. The Ram clearly says that in Perek Aleph, Mechusei Kapara, Halacha Yud. Hoyu oleho, chomesh leidos, vadoyos, v'chomesh zovois vadoyos, mevia korban echod, v'oicheles bezvochim, v'ashar oleho choivo, v'chein hadin bezav. With the first korban, there's tahara. So what the Rav said, and it's not, like a, it's not, let's say, a profound observation here. I mean, if you look, is that you see that in the korban yoledes, or in the korban zav, and the korban zobo, there are basically two mechayivim. There's a mechayiv of tahara, and there's a separate chiyuv korban. And in the Lashon of the Gemara has such a Lashon. The Gemara is, the Sug increases, is Nechelku in Korban Azav, Ayim Medame Leila Tefillah Mikvah, or Lechatoyes, Chiyuv Korban. So therefore, there are two things going on here. When you want to talk about the chiyuv korban for a matzav mesuyim from a peculiar situation of zav zova or yoledes and mitzera, then you're talking about a chiyuvas korban. However, there's also an element of tahara in the korban, and varaya that with one korban you traverse from becoming mechusa kapora to be Torah mikdash, even though you have to bring forward the korbanos. And the Rambam is suggesting over here that the inyan echad shemekapsam is this inyan of min tahara, that the mechusa kapora are metayer, or there is an element of tahara in all mechusa kapora, and in that aspect they're all the same, because without korban you cannot achieve tahara, and that should be a separate mitzvah. This to me is amazing, okay. So what you have basically, so the question is, I want to just explore how far is the Rambam taking it? Because a priori what happens, you have disparate mitzvahs and one common denominator, and that's enough to declare them, to certify them as mitzvah achas. What I want to suggest is that you might not be able to draw general conclusions from this thesis and say that there's a difference over here, because even the element of the chiyuv korban has, at least tangentially, there's some issue of tahara. And there are two very interesting halachas that, one, you find like this. The Ram has halacha in Perek Aleph Mechusei Kapora, halacha ches. Hitila nefel b'yom shmonim v'echod. A lady has the misfortune of having a miscarriage on the 81st day of being in Tumat Yoledes. She had a girl, and there are 80 days. U'miyoyim echad u'shmonim v'hola. Im hi ru'uya l'korban, harei ze mevir olav b'fnei atzma. So it says a very strange thing. You cannot engender a new chiyuv korban yoledes unless you're roi to bring a korban. Even if you're on the 81st day, which you finished, you make tahara. If the lady did not go to the mikveh and she's ru'uya for tahara, then she doesn't have an obligation of another korban, which is an amazing thing. Because a priori you said there are two separate issues over here. There's a chiyuv korban, there's tahara. All I'm pointing out is even in the chiyuv korban, there's some connection to tahara. That's point number one. So it means that tefillah is not only a t'nai for chiyuv, but it's part of the mechayev. And this is we're talking about a second korban. So it's not b'teres tahara, it's a chiyuv korban. Similarly, you find another halacha in Perek Aleph Mechusei Kapora, halacha Dalet and Hey. Hazov v'azov v'metzira maybe kol echod mishloshtem kaporosoi b'yom hashmini l'taharosoi. Shekol echod mehen sefer shiva yemei tahara v'tevel b'yom hashmini. U'ma'av shimser makav korbanosoi b'yom hashmini. Hayoledes eino mevia korbanos b'yom haboim lezocho. You have to wait until this tefillah. Oh, b'yom shmonim lekeva el mareves shimsho umevia korbanos lemocha the next day. Shehu yom haboim v'echod lezocho v'yom shmonim v'echod lekeva v'hu hayom shneva bo melois yimei ta'ara levein oy levas tobi u'goyim v'im hevia korbanos b'seich yimei melois lo yotzes. If she brought the korban in the Malais, where she's not royal at Tahara, she doesn't fulfill obligation. Afilu hevia al v'lodes rishonim b'seich yemei Malais shel vlad ze lo yotzes. So what difference does it make? There are two obligations. There's one obligation of tahara, and there's an obligation of a chayvus korban. And you see a new thing that even as a chayvus korban, you cannot fulfill your obligation unless theoretically this korban could be matayah, which is an amazing thing. So all I'm just telling you that you cannot extrapolate from here. And one could maintain that the Rambam's only saying this. It's not a general rule that if you have one inyan, which you can define them all under one category, classify them under one category, even though the disparate mitzvahs, maybe that's not enough. But because here in each way that the disparate, even in that, there's some commonality, there's some relationship between Tahara and the Chayvus Korban. That's all I'm suggesting over here. So I'm not sure how much we actually know from this, but it's an amazing discussion, okay? That is the Rambam's question. Now, the Rambam's answer. This is basically an Arabic expression, and if you translate it literally, Hashem Yodea. Shezeh hoyiroi bli sofek. The Rambam is not denying the postulate that he asked the question. And he's so sure of it that he can say, Hashem Yodea. Hashem Yodea. Shezeh hoyiroi bli sofek. Im hoye korban kol echod me'elu, abo mechusei kapora korban echod. He's going back to the original thesis, okay? The original thesis, which wanted to make korban zav and zov into one mitzvah because it was the same korban, but he says since it's a massive mesuyim, it's different. One is on loivin and one's on oidem. It's separate mitzvahs. You cannot imagine something called, you can't say that there's a mitzvah that you do not achieve tahara until you bring a korban, if the korban is basically a wild card. It could be a chameleon. It could have any garb, depending upon what the Torah happens to say in a peculiar parasha. You cannot call that one mitzvah. That's what he seems to say over here. Im hoye korban kol echod me'elu abo mechusei kapor korban echod. If it would have been one korban, then I would have said what I said. V'lo yishtane k'mo taras tahara b'mikvah mayim. That never changes. Shu min me'hatum taharos shechayva again al kol tomei ulam mitzad ischalvus korbanom k'moi sha'ataroya ischayev b'mois kol korban b'yichud behechach. Ki hadova sheboy teshalem taras o echod zulas hadova sheboy teshalem taras o achet. So he says, if it's like mikvah, where it's all the same, then I would count it as one. But it's not like mikvah, it's different. This, Rabbi Isai, is an amazing answer. Okay. I'll be frank with you. I started asking the kasha to myself, and then I thought to myself, you can really ask this question. If you recall, in Shiur Shvi'i, the seventh principle that the Ram lays down to understand mitzvahs, he has this concept called fikr, a concept that if you can do the same mitzvah in many different ways, even though the modem of the mitzvah, modus operandi of being mekayim the mitzvah changes, it's all the same mitzvah. For example, chatos, there's a chatos kavua, a nasi brings a soy, the parkoi moshiach, the hedjit brings his korban, the avodah zarah is another korban yochid, different types of korbanos, but it's all a reflection of the same mitzvah called chatos kavua. So I said, what's the problem over here? Let all these four korbanos, the Rambam says, beschalfus mina korban, it shouldn't be, it's irrelevant, because it's the same way of mekayim the same mitzvah. So why don't we say the same thing over here and make it a fikr, different expressions of the same mitzvah of the Torah mechusar kapora, and the Torah legislated different korbanos in different situations. Mm-hmm. Then I said to myself, Rabbi Isai, even the example that the Rambam gives, he's exposing himself to this problem. And I'll tell you why. Because the Rambam, when it comes to the mitzvah of tefillah, he says like this, because we'll see, and I'll read this to start, just to give you an idea. There's also fikr, there also is two manners that one can be mekayim, the mitzvah tefillah, and it still is one mitzvah. He says like this, B'minyan ha-mitzvahs in Kuf Tes, I say Kuf Tes, tefillah zav, I'm not before I say, just give me the idea, tefillah zav in Mayim Chaim, the Rambam clearly says in mitzvah Kuf Tes that that's fikr of the mitzvah tefillah. Zav, if he jumps into a mikvah, is not tall. He needs Mayim Chaim. And the Ram says, why do I count Tefillah Zav and Mayim Chaim as one mitzvah with May Mikveh? He says, because it's fikr. Shetfila, okay. He shetzivonu shenitva b'mei mikvah v'oz nita. Mai me'eze min mimini atuma. It doesn't make shenitma boy. V'amo yis'ale v'rochas b'mayim es kol b'sor. O bo ha'kabolo mayim shekol b'sor lo ila b'hen. V'hu shir mikvah. Ele im yiyu mayim noivi'im that they'll mayim chayim, that's mayon, a spring water, she'ein shir lahem kmo she's boya, bediktuk mitzvah zu, the fikr, okay? And then, if you recall in Shiur Zion, there were two code words that he used in order to suggest that it could be many mitzvahs. One of the code words was fikr, okay? That's different expressions of the same mitzvah. Another code word was a t'nai, which he used, for example, in korban oil v'yored. He says korban oil v'yored is basically one mitzvah. Why? Because an osher does this, that's a t'nai. If an osher does that. If he's an onid, he does that. He brings oifes, And if he is Dalis and brings a mincha. And then the Ram says, in the same Loshen, Umitnoeho, Shehazav Levad, Yiu Amayim Sheyetaye Behen Neidin, K'moi Shebo Bakosu B'mayim Chayim. So it means that it's not really the same, okay? Zav requires its title. It's not all of them the same. Maybe it can be matchik and say that everything's good in Mayim Chayim. But this thesis accounting, counting the four korbanos as four instead of one because they're different, and saying that the increment between Mayim Chaim and May Mikvah is not meaningful is a little odd. Okay? That's fair. Okay. Independent and irrelevant of everything, there's another oddity over here. Once you're ready to say min tahara, and the only problem is the korbanos change, why doesn't the Ram go back to his original premise? He asked the kasha, why shouldn't Zav and Zova be one mitzvah? Because it's the same korban. So he answers, because the chayvot akrova is because of two different matzav mesuyim. So I say, forget about the chayvot akrova. However, in terms of the tahara is the same. So let it be one mitzvah because of that. And it's odd. Why should he say it all or nothing? What do you want? The same way matzav mesuyim, he was ready to deal with this, and we don't know the answer to this question. It's very odd. He himself asked the question when it came to Matzah Mitzuyim, and it seems to be, it has to be all four in the same korban. Why should that be? Okay, let's continue. Now, then he goes like this. So he says, Ula mitzad es chalfus korbanim, k'mo she'ataloya, his chayiv limud kol korban b'yichud behechach. Because they change, therefore each one should be separate. Ki adover sheboy tishalem tares echod, zu es adover sheboy tishalem tares acher. Which is not true when it comes to Zav v'Zova. Then he says something very odd. V'zeh k'moi mei nida u'mei mikvah v'arbo minim shebetzorah. These three cases, Mechatos, Mikvah, and the Tziporim, the Eitz Erez of Mitzvah, Shehein Sholosh Mitzvahs, Afa Pi Shein Kul Mataras Tmeim. All of them Mataras Tmeim, Kmo Shevaya. Okay. It says, why do you count Meinida, Mikvah, and the Arba Minisha Mitzvah as three mitzvahs? Maybe there should be one. It's Taras Tmeim. So the answer is the three separate minim. Okay? Three separate types of Torah here also. Here also there are four different types of Torah. Okay. Here is absolutely amazing again. I just lost it, okay? I don't understand. I understand that mikveh is a Torah, and I understand that mechusah kapara is a Torah. When a person goes to the mikvah, they're basically Torah, and there's a tful yom, a process, the memela, which will complete their Torah. A person who is mechusah kapara brings his korban and he's finished, okay? Rabbi said, a person who has on him was nitma meis, has on him taharas mechatos, absolutely nothing happens. If he goes to the mikvah, which the taharas koras made, he's toho. But prior to the mikvah, he's the same Tomei Meis that he was before. The Metzora who goes through the case of the Metzora who has the Arbor Minsha Metzora, unless there's a mikvah, absolutely nothing happens. So to say that the reason why these are three separate mitzvahs is because there's three separate meanings is very odd. A priori, I would have said there should be only one mitzvah. And I would have used Sherish Asiri and explained it. Because the Ram says that the afia or the lakicha of the Seiles for Lechem Aponim is only a hakdama to the mitzvah. It's not counted to the mitzvah Lechem Aponim. The making of the shemen for the menorah is only hakdama for the mitzvah, is not counting. The making of the keteris is only hakdama for the mitzvah keteris, is not counting. The making of the shemen hamishcha is only hakdama for the mitzvah Mashiach, which is not counted. So I would have told you that this question is absolutely absurd, excuse me. That it's not, in the Rambam's frame of reference, it's not that the main nida and the main mikvah and the Dala Minish B'Tzera should have been all one mitzvah, because it's one min ta'ara, it's all min ta'ara, but the reason that they're separate mitzvahs is because they have disparate actions of ta'ara. I would have said nothing to do. There's only one min ta'ara, which is mikvah. The other two are basically hakdomas and shorish asiri. This also, Rabbi Isai, is very odd. I must say, I don't know. And then he adds Ve'elu abo mechusei kapora, hisbar mishpateim, mishpat korbanisei, b'chlal, u'befrat, berishon, v'sheni mikrisis. Okay, and he says where it is. Okay. Now, just want to ask one question. And this is, I'm going to depart a little bit from what I do. And I'll ask a question. Because the Mishnah, the Ram seems to say, if you recall, that the Mishnah increases in the second parak, listing Arbo Mechusei Kaporo, and calling Zav V'Zova as two, okay? And Mitzaras is one because it's not counted as two. The Rambam basically says, that the Mishnah is a code word for the Matiki Ashmur to say, basically count how many mitzvahs. It's Arba Mechusei Kapara, okay? So if that, I have two questions over here. Question number one, if the Arba Mechusei Kapara are edis from the Matiki Hashmur, the Makabre, or the Meseres from Taryag Mitzvahs, or the Chachmei HaMeserah, which the obligation, according to the Rambam, in the Gemara in Eruvin, on Nun Dalan Rebbe's case at Seidah Mishnah, that the syllabus that Moshe taught Aaron and Aaron to the Bonov, and then Moshe taught to the Zekanim and to the Kol Ha'am, the syllabus of the Taryag Mitzvahs, and the Matiki Hashmur, their job is to tell us the Torah, to explain the Torah Shebiksav of the Taryag mitzvahs in context of Torah Shebal Peh, and to tell us what the mitzvahs are. So if what they're telling us in the Arba Mechusei Kapora is that there are Arba mitzvahs, and that Mitzere Mitzaras is one, and that Zav V'Zov is two, how then could he, the Rambam, ask the question, since there's an Inyan Makapson, that there should be actually one instead of four? Unless you tell me, okay, I don't know, you hear it, it's a very reasonable question. Because what the Matiki Hashmur is telling us for Inyan and four mitzvahs. Unless you tell me that the Eidus of the Matiki Hashmur is only meaningful in as much as that there are four Inyanim, and if you can say the one Inyan, then the Eidus is meaningless, you have to know if that's true. So what's the Eidus all about? This goes back, and I'm just going to go back, and you have to review, give you homework. You look at the end of Shir Aleph, and the Ram says there's an Eidus of Matiki Hashmur that the Matorah of the mitzvahs Tzitzis, Tchelis, and Lovon is one Matorah. Okay? But he says that afterwards, it's preceded by Yochol, Yehei, Tchelis, and Lovon, Shtei mitzvahs, Talmuloi v'hoi lachem letzitzis, mitzvah achas. And the Rambam does not suffice with that. It's not enough. They have to say, there has to be an edus. Okay? There has to be an edus. There have to be an explanation of Matorah why they're one. So the fact that the Matiki Hashmur said it's one is only a gilui that you had to have something. Okay? And similarly over here, it could be the Matiki Hashmur was saying that Zav and Zova is one, but it's only meaningful because it's on Korban Mesuyim. And that's what Ram says, Ein Inyanim Shavim, when he explains it. Okay. However, maybe if you detract and remove that they're different in the Inyanim, and the Mechayiv is not the Inyan Mesuyim, but the Tara, maybe it can all be one. But that would be an amazing thing. The Eidus is only meaningful in as much as they're different in Yonim. It's an amazing thing. And I'll throw in, another monkey wrench into this before I ask my other question. You clearly, when you learn the end of the 11th Shurish, that the Eidus is not enough. The Eidus only goes hand in hand, that they're different in Yonim. That's the Chur where he goes on and on at the end of the 11th Shurish. I have a problem, because you learn mitzvah Yud Beis and Yud Gimel, Tefillin Shorosh and Tefillin Shel Yad. The Rambam asks, let them be one mitzvah. And the Ram says, because the Matiki Hashmur Menachos said, Misha ein loi shtei mitzvahs lo yaseh mitzvah achas, and the Matiki Hashmur said that they're two mitzvahs. Okay? And then he says, since they're basically one inyan, a Teres Hashem Beficha, therefore Nashim Apotas Mehein from Tefillin Shalosh, Mehein Tefillin Shayad. So I ask myself a question. Are Tefillin Shalosh and Tefillin Shayad, are they one inyan or two inyan? So a priori I would have said, maybe they're one inyan. I'm not asking about the various Hinimuchans that you say before the Tefillin, who are besaking them or not, but the L'mais in Rambam, there's no clarity that they're two inyanim. So it means the Eidus is enough, either if they're one inyan, or the Eidus is not enough. And this is my confusion over here. Okay? So, now, I want to ask another question. That's question number one. Question number two. if you open up the Mishnah of Arba B'chusay Kapora, and the Ram, let's see, Arba Perik Aleph of B'chusay Kapora, Aloch Aleph, Arba B'chusay Kapora, Hazov, Vayoledet, Vazov, Ametzera, Lo B'chusay Kapora, Shkol Echem En Af Pishetor, Mitumotza, V'tova, V'ev Shimshoy, Adayin Hu Choseh, V'legom Etal Oseh, in order to eat kochim. Ad Shiovi Koboneh. The Kol Mishiovi Kapoloseh, also who lechol the kochim, Kmo Shebi'ad P'sul Mukdosh. Now, in that Mishnah, after it finishes Arba Mechusay Kapora, it talks about the Korban of Ger. And Halacha Beis in Rambam, Ger Shemar V'toval V'adayin Lehevi Korbonoi Af al pi shu osa lechol b'kochim ad shiovi Korbonoi Eino Mechusay Kapora Shekorbonoi Ikvoi Liois Ger Gomo V'liois Kekol Kisha Yisrael. The reason why he came b'nei zeh ein oichel b'kochim, shadayin lo nase kikisha Yisrael, v'kim et shio b'kaprosa v'yase Yisrael kosher oichel b'kochim. Right. So I ask a question, okay? This Alpi, so it's very strange. You see, the question is very odd because, first of all, from our point of view, the reason of Mechusay Kapora is not because he eats Achilas Kochim, it's because it's a Metayer. The question from the frame of reference of Sefer HaMitzvos, Afalki, is absolutely absurd, okay? A priori. Afal pi, shehu osa lechol b'kochim achir v'karbonoi. Doesn't do it ger. Ger, it's not tumah. I understand you want a metaphysical tumah. It has something to do, it's not what we're talking about here. Eino mechusay kapora. Shekorbonoi ikvul yos ger gomo, v'yos kechol kosher Yisrael. So I ask the question, why shouldn't there be a separate mitzvah in Minyan HaMitzvos called Korban Ger? Okay. The interesting thing is, the Ram Pirush Mishnayis in Mechusay Kapora, in Perik Mechusay Kapora, he says that the Tanakama is of the opinion that it's mitzvah ba'alma. Mitzvah ba'alma. It's not ma'akiv and achilas kochim. And the other Tana is of the opinion that it's ma'akiv in achilas kochim. So what's the pshat? So the question is, and this I say with trepidation, okay? The Rambam is mashma that it's choser in the gerus until the ikiyum hakrovas korban is choser in the gerus. And that's the Rav said, we were learning krisus. The Rav said that, however, Bisman Hazeh, and that's the opinion over here, that's what Ram says, that Bisman Hazeh, he is allowed to eat kochim because he can't bring the korban. Okay, so it's the ikiyum hakrov is ma'akev. The question is it possible to say that there is goyus, and the reason why the chayvus korban itself generates, it's a question what comes first. Is he basically has mixes goyus, and the korban is a reflection of that? But if he wouldn't have the korban, this question, you have to know exactly how to say it. You understand? It's confusing. What causes what? What I'm wondering over here, and I'm afraid through trepidation I say it, maybe Taryag mitzvahs on Yisrael. Here, it's a goy, it's a mitzvah on him, is viv as much as he's a goy, that much he's obligated to be in the korban. And that couldn't be a mitzvah minyan mitzvahs. And the truth is, Rabbi Isai, even Rav Sadi Goin, who has a mitzvah of ger, but you see it's a very different mitzvah. Rav Sadi, in I think it's here, in Chaf Hey at the beginning, he has like this, it's a mitzvah. Yeah. הפרק 25, שער המסגיירים, והן 14 mitzvahs, 14 mitzvahs. What's the first one? Also, oisom, reishis, dovo, shnei suge, the two types of geras. Le'inyan misha ozav esakfira, v'kibel tnai o emuna, v'avoides Hashem, הרי הוא כאזרח שבבני ישראל, כפי שאומר, כאזרח מכם יהיה לכם הגר הגור איתכם. Okay? It's basically equality. But it's not obligations on the ger. It's the way we interact with the ger. Similarly, Misha Ozav Esalilov, Achla Kibo Mixas Mitnoy Avodas Hashem, Harihu Maschil. He's a beginner. A ger Toshav is a beginner. And he says, V'nikol b'shem Toshav, v'o oicheles nevelis, k'fi she'oma, lager asher b'shachecha, titnena v'acholo, oy mochol enochli. It's not mitzvahs on him, it's mitzvahs on us. And what I'm telling you, out the korban from ger, which is mashlim the geirus, and inasmuch doesn't bring the korban, this goyus, maybe you couldn't imagine there should be a mitzvah minyan mitzvahs. Okay? I only say if that's correct, okay? Then you can flip it and do the opposite. Because if you recall, the Ram says in the first Tana that is of the opinion that Tana disagrees with Rabbi Ben Yankiv, I think it is, and in the Mechusik Kapol is not there of Geir, because it means that it's a mitzvah ba'alma to bring the korban. Okay, it's a mitzvah ba'alma the korban. There's no goyus. If there's no goyus, then you should come to one simple conclusion. If there's no goyus, then l'chayot shebe minyan hamitzvos. And the Rambam only doesn't count in minyan hamitzvos because he's of the opinion, he paskins like this Tana, that it's ma'afos of lechol kodshim and it's goyus, and therefore it isn't counted in minyan hamitzvos. We have to know. Rabbi say, I apologize that I only did basically half a mitzvah today, but to start another mitzvah now with another minute or two left, I don't think it's reasonable. And hatzlocha rabba.